So, let's see. Let's see, show and tell here. Starting a little bit later than I like. I hope that that does not cost us too many folks on the East Coast or early those early to bed on the West Coast. Let's see. Been reading Tom Stoppard's Hapgood, which is this right here. Tom Stoppard. Let's see. There we go. Yeah. So less glare. You can see it there. Tom Stoppard, playwright, I believe, Shakespeare in Love is the work that most people are familiar with. Second after that's probably Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is excellent movie version with Tom Robbins and Willem Dafoe. Is it? I don't think not Willem Dafoe, but it's Tom. It's Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins. Tom Robbins. Anyway, good actors, and their names resemble the syllables I just said. Then third, I think, would probably be Arcadia, which I think is more widely read, I think, maybe than seen, since Shakespeare in Love and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead are, you know, very widely circulated. Hapgood is his shot at the sort of noir spy. Evening, Mazen. It's good to see you. Hi. Looks like this is the first time chat. It is good to meet you. Just to, you know, kind of at the beginning of each stream, I do kind of like a show and tell where I kind of share what I've been reading that week or since the last stream. So this is Tom Stoppard's Hapgood, and it's leaning in some of the direction that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern did, which is, you know, they do a lot of jokes based on physics and puns, and he seems to be taking on quantum physics in this, and I have no idea how much he knows about quantum physics, or if it is the pop version of quantum physics that I know, which is quasi-mystical and not very physics-based at all. But yeah, so but it is very charming as Stoppard is. And oh, thank you. No, I'm doing really well. It's been a challenging week with the news, as it is for many. But other than that, it's been fine. I've been great. Been doing a lot of reading. Been doing a lot of writing, and some music too, which I'm looking forward to showing you. But yeah, he's got a scene in this where he there's secret squirrel spy stuff being discussed at the edge of the pitch of one of the characters' son playing for his high school team, or whatever the UK equivalent is, because this is set in England, and it's very charming. It's very charming. Mixes the personal with the noir spy element. Been jumping back into this Dante's Purgatorio, which if you've only read the Inferno, I think you're missing out. Purgatorio and Paradiso are both much more readable and also sort of complete the vision. And I decided to jump right in the middle, where which is about where I left off on the platform of sloth, which is insufficient zeal for the good, not sloth in the sense of laziness, but you can see the line between them. And whoa, there we go. And Octavio Paz, A Draft of Shadows. These are great translations. Two of the translators in here, Elizabeth Bishop and Mark Strand, both excellent poets in their own right. And Evening Swimmy, it's good to see you. And Paz as source material is exquisite. Yeah, like in the Lodi Gardens, the black pensive dense domes of the mausoleums suddenly shot birds into the unanimous blue. And that's great, just like a strong image, strong snapshot, with the language is very focused, and you can see it, you can feel it. Ray Bradbury short stories, I actually picked this one up, Swimmy, because after your skeleton stream, I was interested in finding the short story about the guy whose skeleton got skeleton napped. And I found that story online, wanted to find it in print form, could not find it here. So then went out searching for it. And It's good. It's good. It's a good one. It is not in this one, unfortunately, the Toynbee Convector, but this contains a lot of stories that I never, that I intended to read but didn't. This is 1988 Ray Bradbury. I am better read on Bradbury of the 70s and late 60s. But yeah, and this has some of his. Ray Bradbury had a tortured relationship with John Huston, the film director, in working on Moby Dick, his film adaptation of it. And John Huston's films are excellent. The King. What is it? It's got Sean Connery in it. Something. I'm not remembering the exact name of it, but it has Sean Connery as a con man pretending to be a king and then being exposed for the fraud that he is. It's quite good, but apparently he was very difficult to work with. Not Connery, I don't know anything about him, but John Huston. And Ray Bradbury immortalizes that struggle quite well in a short story in which he shows how Huston was, one would call it now, trolling and manipulative, and then he kills him. So, the man who would be king. Thank you, Dan. Evening. So it's one of those. There's a Garrison Keillor quotation that from one of the Prairie Home Companions about 15 years ago was, "Beware of crossing an English major. We will immortalize you in ways you would rather not be remembered." And Bradbury lives up to that quite well, though he was not himself an English major. And this best UFO videos of the 90s. This is amazing. This is so best UFO videos of the 90s was taken almost exclusively from Mexican public access television. There was a sort of a mysteries, unsolved mysteries themed television show there, and a lot of the footage just basically is cribbed from that. The on-screen text is in Italian. The interview subjects are sometimes from the UK, sometimes from Mexico. Almost all of it focuses on Mexico City, and it's just that. And the narrator has an English accent and pronounces them UFOs. UFOs as UFOs, which I've never heard before. So it's a very weird mix of a lot of different elements. The Mexican source material, the Italian titles, the English narrator, and yeah, it's actually available on YouTube if you would like to find it. Best UFO videos of the 90s. And he also goes into some wild digressions pertaining to the well-being and fate of humanity, yeah, I recommend it. Yes, Houston is one of those sort of challenging geniuses. And yes, I did not know it was based on a Kipling story, but given the texture of the story and the way it goes, it does not surprise me at all. The redeeming quality of it is that Connery and his compatriot... No, it's Michael Caine. Michael Caine is also in that. Connery, Caine, excellent actors, and they are a great pair of rogues that they're fun to watch. Remaking MGS3, I'm fascinated by it. I welcome it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle repurposing the original VO for cutscenes that I imagine they are redoing. I'm really curious to see how they redo the cutscenes, since everything in MGS was, of course, done in Engine. That was kind of its innovation, and successive games in the series played that out. And I'm really curious to see how they work the mechanics. Octo Camo in MGS4 worked because it was, futuristic technology that doesn't exist. You can press against a wall and get the texture and color of the wall. And in Snake Eater, he's pretty clearly, literally changing clothes. So I'm wondering if or how they're going to take the camo viewer mechanic and somehow make that happen real time in the same way that Octo Camo does, or if they're going to hand wave it away, which would be an acceptable answer. I think that's a valid design choice. Hand wave it away as, oh, he's changing clothes off screen, even though off screen literally means in the blank screen between hitting start and hitting start. And yeah, I think there are a lot of things that could be fixed. I am curious to see how they develop CQC, which has become more complex. I think MGS5's CQC felt pretty good. The thing that I am concerned about, and this isn't like a concern as in like I'm worried about it, but the thing that I'm interested to see, maybe that's a better way of putting it, is so if you think about the shift, I don't know if you played Metal Gear Online for Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence or Metal Gear Online 2, but CQC and basically those two versions of the game, one feels very arcadey, very pick up and play, and with a limited number of limited palette of actions. Everybody moved at roughly the same pace, had roughly the same skills, and it was just action. And Metal Gear Online 2 made it a little more RPG, right? A little more invest in your character and choose skills to load out with. And there's a very different feel for that, right? The quick, crisp simplicity of Metal Gear Online for MGS3 just isn't there in the the later version. And so I'm wondering if something like that will happen with the remake with CQC, if they go the route of Metal Gear Solid 5, bring in those CQC mechanics and that depth. If it will feel, I don't know, a little mushier, to put it maybe a little strangely, just because that's a change that's happened before when they took the formulas of Metal Gear Solid 3 and developed them further. So I'm curious to see how that works out. Yeah, I do hope that the Shagohod chase scene, Swimmy, I hope that it does have the two options. One, the over-the-shoulder to attack, and auto-aim, watch this from the preset camera angles. It's a fun movie. The audio volume of the action changes depending on where the camera is. Sometimes it's all the way at the end of the runway. Sometimes it's right under the Shagohod's treads. And that's really cool. And yes, Mazen, the voice acting I think will be the same, and I'm really curious to know how they work around that. I mean, yeah, and this is one thing that I do hope that that MGS3 does, Dan, you've hit on it, which is that being able to control bees, technically harness, but that doesn't sound as fun to say. Being able to control bees is underutilized. It's a novelty mechanic much of the time. It can be useful in maybe like 3 areas after the Pains fight, and maybe 1 or 2 before. Yeah, something that I would love for them to do, as somebody who played quite a bit with the Pains camo, and I think I recorded this on some of the Metal Gear Solid 3 Foxhound Rank video walkthroughs, is so something you can do is if you get a hive, hornet hive, you throw it on the ground and then you shoot down another hive of bees. No, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting this. If you get a hive and have it in your food inventory, then during the fight with the Pain, you equip it and throw it on the ground. It'll pop up as an item, and then the Pain's hornets will go toward the nest and repopulate it. And so then it pops and turns into a new food item, not just a hive, but a hive full of Pain hornets. And then you can put that in your inventory, and it's basically a complete stamina refill if you eat it. And if you throw it out, it'll pop on the ground, and I think you'll see maybe like some particles around it indicating that bees are in it. I don't remember exactly, but I had always hoped that you would be able to capture those Pain hornets in those food items, then wear the Pain camo, and then be able to throw that out and actually summon bees from your food inventory, and then use that to, yes, it doesn't spoil also. That's another good thing for it. It's a shame that it doesn't repopulate in your inventory after you get it when you get captured, but them's the breaks. But yeah, to be able to carry the pain camo's utility no matter where you go. I think that would be a great addition. And I feel certain that, and this is another question I have, is one of the things that Kojima Productions is very good at doing is, for lack of a better term, letting you screw around with the system very freely. And I think that I hope that the team working on it now has a similar sensibility. And I have no reason to think they won't. None of these are doubting the team's capability. These are just questions that I have as a well-known big fan of the original. Yeah, well, I mean, load times are the bane of any game, and it will cost you Metacritic points just for that alone. Let's see, what else? Show and tell, last thing to wrap up. Oh yeah, so this is fun. So I was looking at the instruction manual of Dead Souls, and I looked on the back and I saw an advertisement for Binary Domain. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. So I pulled out my copy of Binary Domain, this guy right here, and I looked at it, and on the back of this is the instruction manual, and on the back of that, there's an advertisement for Yakuza Dead Souls. And so I know that there is some connection between the two. I don't know if they shared staff or what. But yeah, so I'm really curious to play these two back to back. I think this could be a fun game to stream afterwards. They both there are some similarities right off the bat when you load in Yakuza Dead Souls. We didn't do this on stream, but there's a whole loading sequence where you get to see entertaining animations of the characters kind of like doing things with their guns and flourishing them and the like. And similarly with Binary Domain, there is a front load off the disc that has sort of like an entertaining animation. So there's some of the same ideas there. I loved Binary Domain. Yes, no, for Binary Domain is forgiving, but not that forgiving, I should say. Yeah, no, I know the gimmick that they had behind it was like the voice command mechanics, but I think that the game is strong despite that. Yeah, what else? Been doing this. This is Dan. This will be of interest to you, and maybe no one else, but that's enough, right? Is I decided to get back into Bach, and rather than go for an entire big fella, as I'm going to call it, I decided to look at his chorales, which are these, 8-measure bits from longer cantatas, and they are just the right size for the time that I have available to learn and work on music. So as you can see, that's even the cantata, even the chorale itself can be quite dense. And so what I've done is I've written it out by hand, of course. So there's the treble line, and that's pretty simple to read on its own, and something that I can play on the banjo pretty simply because it's just a bunch of pinches. But then for the bass line, I copied that out and used two different highlighters colors to mark out the two different voices that are present, because this is far more than just a bunch of pinching. These are actually there are two distinct voices in here that command dedicated attention to understanding, and so just for being able to wrap my head around it, I'll probably record a run through of the melody and then use that as a bass line, pun unintended, but accepted, for playing the bass line. Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, this is something else. And, oh, yes, I think $60, Mazen, is absolutely justified. That's a lot of great content, and it is worth it. There is the argument that by repackaging something that already exists, they haven't actually made anything. But making it available for a modern console, and that can be a gauge for interest in further work in the Metal Gear franchise, and $60 as a standard price point, standard industry price point for enough material of that that heft, and also the extras that they're putting in there, the design documents, the behind the scenes materials, all of that is, I mean, that's worth like probably worth more than $60 alone to the dedicated. Yeah, so I think $60 is a great price point for it. I will be dropping it for sure. But yeah, Dan, so Mozart is interesting because I was thinking about him when I was looking at this. The other Bach that I'm working on is his inventions. So here's Invention 11, which, as you can see, and so while I was writing this out and sort of figuring, it's just 2 pages, so that's pretty easy. But yeah, as I was writing it out, you can see here, and sort of tabbing it out a little bit. And I mean, I don't appreciate this always when I'm listening to it, but then when I actually see it and start working on it with my hands, it's like, you are just moving your hand from one side of the keyboard to the other and then kind of going down and then kind of going back up again. That is what you are doing. It's like more complex than that, obviously, but in terms of the mechanics of it, you're looking at it, it's like, wait a minute, this is actually, conceptually, this is really simple. Or like manually, this is really simple. And it makes me think of Mozart, who... I've also looked at that on his work, and it's just like, there are just points in Mozart's songs where he's just like, all right, I'm going to go all the way from the bottom of this piano all the way to the top, and then maybe I'm going to go back down again, maybe back to the top and down again, maybe with increasingly smaller intervals, and it's just like, man, you guys are having a good time. So this is, these are from an actual book that I have, with Bach's sheet music in it, and I am forbidden, these are not mine, they are loaners, I am forbidden for writing them or mangling them, and I tend to mangle any book that I own, so out of respect for that, I just will take a picture of it with my camera, which actually gives it a little bit more of a nicotine stained look to it, depending on the lighting, and then I just print that out. So if there's something that you're looking for in particular from those, I would be glad to take a picture of it for you. If there's something that you have in mind, hit me up and I'll be glad to see if I got it. And give you that sweet, sweet iPhone quality. So, but with that in mind, that is a pretty good show and tell. Let's hop into Dead Souls here.